Let me ask you a question. What is the longest part of the human body? Be bold and say it is. It's the intestines. The total length of an adult's intestines is about 7 to 9 meters, which is 5 to 7 times your height. The intestines are divided into the small intestine, large intestine, and rectum. The rectum is the very end of the intestines, and it's the exit extremely sensitive. The receptors inside can even distinguish whether what's about to be expelled is solid, liquid, or a mixture of both. Of course, don't trust those receptors too much, especially when you have diarrhea, neither trust any fart. As for the function of the rectum, here's a friendly reminder. It has one and only one function, and that is excretion. There are absolutely no other functions. When you eat, food is chewed into a mushy paste in the mouth, then passes through the esophagus into the stomach, where it is ground down into tiny particles about 0.2 millimeters in diameter. After that, it enters the small intestine. The main function of the small intestine is to digest and absorb nutrients and maintain fluid balance in the body. Here, bile secreted by the liver mixes with the food. Bile contains a pale yellow pigment called bilirubin, which stains the food brown. This explains why the food we eat is all sorts of colors, but what comes out as stool is brown unless there are some pigments the body can't break down, in which case the color you eat is the color you excrete. For example, eating dragon fruit can make your stool red, and eating blueberries can make it blue. After the small intestine comes the large intestine. The main function of the large intestine is to reduce the source over high heat, meaning it absorbs water and electrolytes from food residue, turning liquid into something thicker. Additionally, microorganisms in the large intestine break down the residue and produce a substance called trimethylindole, commonly known as scatol. This explains why the food we eat all has different smells, but the stool we excrete always smells bad. Interestingly, when scatol is present at very low concentrations, it actually gives off a scent similar to jasmine and is often used in perfumes. This shows that the line between fragrance and stench is often very thin. Once stool has formed in the large intestine, it is stored in the rectum and expelled through defecation. The human intestinal tract contains about 100 trillion microorganisms, weighing roughly 2 kilograms. These make up our gut microbiota, which helps digest and absorb nutrients. If this microbiota becomes imbalanced, intestinal digestive and absorptive functions are compromised, leading to diarrhea or constipation. With diarrhea, you might go so much you risk rectal prolapse. With constipation, you could sit for ages and still not pass anything. Take me for example, my digestive system has never been good. I often experience bloating and indigestion, and if I eat anything greasy or cold, my stomach immediately acts up. Every time I go out to eat with friends and see them enjoying their food, I can only watch longingly. Later, when I went to the hospital for a checkup, the doctor suggested that I supplement with some probiotics to improve my gut environment. But the key is how to actually get the probiotics into your stomach to boost the fighting power of your gut microbiota. Many probiotic supplements on the market claim to contain billions of imported probiotics, but in reality, after passing through the harsh tests of stomach acid and bile, very few survive. So when supplementing with probiotics, you need to take a sufficient quantity to ensure that enough of them can survive and ultimately reach the intestines to take effect. So I did a lot of research and compared many probiotic supplements at pharmacies and supermarkets. This raised a question. What kind of product can supplement both protein and probiotics at the same time? My friends recommended many options, including this A2 multivitamin high calcium lactoferrin milk powder. Of course, after multiple comparisons, I finally chose the A2 multivitamin high calcium lactoferrin milk powder. It contains 22.4 billion imported probiotics and is specially processed to better resist the erosion of stomach acid and bile, allowing more probiotics to survive and reach the intestines, thereby regulating the gut microbiota and improving intestinal function. The entire gut also has a completely independent nervous system. This is called the enteric nervous system. The enteric nervous system has a complete set of sensory, transport, and motor nerves, which can independently regulate digestive movements and complete reflexes without being controlled by the brain. So whatever the intestines want to do, they just directly notify your brain rather than negotiating. For example, I'm about to have diarrhea, only 2 seconds until launch, brain, you deal with it. It's precisely because of this sensitive enteric nervous system that the human gut is extremely sensitive. In terms of resilience, it's like Shukun covering his mouth and not daring to make a sound, just a little stimulation, and it reacts immediately. Many people feel the urge to have diarrhea as soon as they get a bit nervous, or when they're rushing to catch a train or plane, or when it's almost their turn in an interview. When you reach a crucial moment on a date with a girl, you feel the urge to go. Before going to work in the morning, you feel the urge to go. There's a saying, a lazy donkey produces a lot of poop and pee when grinding grain. Maybe we've misunderstood donkeys. They might not be lazy, but just have sensitive guts. Another typical sign of the human gut's extreme sensitivity is lactose intolerance. As people age, most people's lactase gene gradually becomes less active. So after drinking milk, there's no lactase to break down the lactose. And this lactose gets eaten by microbes in the large intestine, producing all kinds of gases and short-chain fatty acids. A sensitive gut can't handle the stimulation from gases and short-chain fatty acids, so it swells up and speeds up peristalsis, leading to diarrhea. So does that mean people whose lactase gene remains active in adulthood have no problems drinking milk? Not necessarily. Some people who are lactose tolerant still feel stomach discomfort after drinking milk. Nowadays, milk often contains type I beta-casein protein. When this type of protein is broken down, it produces a substance called BCM7, which can also cause symptoms similar to lactose intolerance in some people. Every time after drinking milk, it feels like there's a party going on in your gut. Your mouth enjoys it, but your backside pays the price. In recent years, the A2 brand has invited many professionals to try by R2 milk. For example, in 2023, they invited 134 medical workers who are prone to gastrointestinal discomfort from drinking milk to participate in a self-service trial. 86% of them reported no gastrointestinal discomfort after drinking A2 milk, and 11% said their discomfort was less severe compared to drinking other types of milk. Based on the reports from over 30 medical professionals, it's clear that many people who think they are lactose intolerant when drinking milk. In many cases, the main reason isn't lactose intolerance, but the presence of A-own type protein. A2 milk, however, comes from purebred New Zealand cows selected through genetic sequencing to produce only A2 type protein milk, ensuring no A-own protein. This makes it more compatible with the human body and eases digestion. For example, when I researched this milk powder, I found it contains only A2 protein and added high-purity lactoferrin, which boosts natural defenses. The hydrolyzed egg yolk powder also promotes bone cell growth. High calcium and vitamin D work together to help calcium absorb more effectively. With just 2 cups a day, I can meet my daily calcium needs. The key point is it doesn't contain sucrose, so it's a great choice for my parents. It's healthy and provides calcium. The enteric nervous system controls the intestines and secretes hormones that affect mood. In fact, 90% of the body's serotonin and much of its dopamine are secreted by the gut. These hormones are related to pleasure and happiness. For example, when you see an attractive girl, your body secretes dopamine, which is why the saying, "a wandering heart," has some scientific basis. It's precisely because the enteric nervous system is so powerful that many people refer to the gut as the second brain. But to be strict about it, the gut should actually be considered the first brain. When animals were still a very primitive stage of evolution, they were basically just a gut capable of moving on its own, similar to today's coentrants. Later, all other organs evolved as add-ons based on this gut. In other words, the digestive system was the first system to appear, followed by the development of a not-so-complex network-like nervous system, which was the prototype of today's enteric nervous system. The brain, on the other hand, appeared much later. As we mentioned before, the brain developed because the eyes formed at the head, and processing visual signals requires a lot of computing power. So, the nerves simply gathered near the eyes, and over time, this led to the formation of a neural center. As a result, the brain that developed later naturally did not gain control over the enteric nervous system. Because of this evolutionary history, the human gut holds a very high priority among all organs. No matter how much pain or exhaustion the body endures, all nutrients are first supplied to the gut, then absorbed by it, and only then distributed throughout the body. Even if a person looks thin and sallow, their intestines inside are sure to be well nourished. As a host, when I assess whether a critically ill patient is improving, I also look at their appetite, because appetite often reflects the will to survive. Eating well is the most important thing in life. This is true sometimes the mind may be muddled, but the gut always knows what's going on.